Thank you, BYP. Thank you. I'd love to thank BYP Network for having me join this session for you on what is Black Introvert Week UK, and it runs from the Monday to Friday, the final week of Black History Month every year. Now, yes, it's a week, but the initiative is year-round, and it's to give added voice to this community, this often misunderstood community of Black introverts. 1/3 of Britons claim to be introvert. So if you think about the general census of our population, that means there are potentially 1 million Black introverts across the UK. So what sessions like this and others throughout the week aims to do is to give, as I say, added voice to this community and just help us all to thrive. So I will be sharing slides throughout this session. Ask anyone who doesn't have a question to pop yourselves on mute, just to make the experience great for everyone else. So, you're on mute. How to give introverts added voice in the workplace. Now, what I will do is just show you what we will be going through in this session. It's 2 acts. The first act is to just ground people's understanding of introversion and extroversion. So, getting rid of those myths about introversion, and also just discussing the benefits of unlearning what we think is true of introverts. And there'll be a quick exercise just to get the brain going, because it is the end of the day for most of you in the UK. And I will then move on to Act 2, where we look at being heard as an introvert. So this is the meat of this session, how to speak up to get what you want, how to speak up in meetings, how to speak up about your accomplishments without sounding arrogant, and 7 words and phrases to remove from your professional vocabulary. Also within that session, I will also touch briefly on how to successfully manage a team of mixed personalities. And I will also be able to give you a takeaway exercise for you to find out your own personality style. So yeah, we're together. And also in the chat, if you have any questions, please just pop them in. I'm happy to answer as we go along. Yeah, that's what I do. So what makes someone an introvert? Well, what I'd like to do very quickly is just introduce myself. I guess those of you who have seen the bio on the invite will know my CV background. But in terms of my introvert journey, so I remember when I was in school, I was particularly quiet. And at many parents' evenings, and probably something you can relate to, I remember going along with my father, and the teacher would have this piece of paper with all of my predicted grades, right? And it'd be, Mr. Etienne, we are just a little bit concerned, about Richard's, lack of participation in the class, and we just want him to be a bit more vocal, as the other students are, blah blah blah. And my father would look down at this sheet of paper which had my predicted grades of, largely A's, A stars, and he would look at the teacher and say, I don't really see a problem here. And this is the issue, right? The issue was for me that my teachers, and then when I moved into the workplace generally, I was made to feel as though something was wrong with me because I wouldn't speak up. However, it was only until I read a book from an author called Susan Cain, which was about the power of introverts in a world of extroverts that can't stop talking, that made me realize that I was part of a much wider community of introverts who just recharge energy differently. In fact, the line I like to use is, it's how one gains and drains energy. So just think about that, how one gains or drains energy. And one thing I definitely want to just kind of point out is no one is a pure introvert or extrovert. Now, psychologist Carl Jung was the person who came up with the term introvert and extrovert. And he was once quoted saying that, there's no such thing as a pure introvert and extrovert. And such a person would be found in a lunatic asylum. So actually, the truth is, there are many ways that we all behave based on a particular situation. So for example, right now, I'm much less introverted. Right now, I'm kind of sliding into my extroversion in order to deliver this talk for you. But what I'd like to do is just share a few statements here. And I want to know if you relate to any of these. So I'm going to see if I can actually get the chat open. Yeah, so first of all, actually, in the chat, if you could just put a yes if you identify as introvert, or a no if you don't, just so I can get a sense of who's in the room. I think that's quite a good place to start there. Thanks, Alex. I was going to say thanks to lots of names. Thanks, Sarah, Lillian, Julia. This is great. Okay, we have quite a lot. Coin is like yes to everything. Yeah, for me, I think number 4 is a tough one for me, small talk. Now, in my previous life in government, I used to be a videographer. I was a videographer for Prime Minister Theresa May. But prior to that, I was also a videographer at Buckingham Palace. And the great thing about that was, I got to be around the royal family and just see how they operated. And the Queen, everybody hears about the Queen, right? And the way she speaks with individuals. But one thing I want to share with you is the principle a lot of the royal family use. So they always talk about the what and not the how. So Monday morning, you go into work. What's the first question people ask you? How was your weekend, right? It's always that really kind of mundane, ubiquitous question. However, someone from the royal family will instead have asked you, what was the highlight of your weekend? I need to think of an example. I need to think of a specific thing that I can actually share with you. And then that person will share, I did a spotted gardening. It's like, oh, what inspired you to start that hobby? Oh, my mother was blah, 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 blah. And it can just keep going. You just keep going. So with small talk, this is great for networking. Speak to the what and not the how, because how can just be killed. Conversation kills, one word responses, and it's kind of over and it's all a bit awkward. So yeah, if you say yes, to all of these 6 or most of these 6, you are most likely an introvert. However, introverts are not easy to spot. We don't walk around with introvert on our forehead. And to prove this, I will ask you to answer a very short poll, and that should be started any moment now. And while that's coming up, I just want to talk about ambiversion. So ambiversion is a relatively newish term, which describes an individual who kind of floats in the middle quite a bit. And you'll notice this as you are developing through your career, that you're constantly having to kind of slide in and out of introversion, extroversion. And you will find the sweet spot in the center, and that's ambiversion. And many of you actually probably closely relate to that without even realizing it. So, this is just a quick quote, actually, and I'd love to hear again, just conversation in the chat. Does this statement by actor Emma Watson resonate with you? If you're anything other than an extrovert, you're made to think that there's something wrong with you, because it's true for a lot of us. But yeah, love to hear your feedback in the chat. But right, so realize there's no poll. So what we'll do, easy, we'll just use the chat for this one. I'm going to show you 10 celebrities, personalities, and I simply want you to guess whether they're an introvert or not. Right. And thank you for all of your comments, Manuel, Tiana, Talia, appreciate it. So I'm only giving you a few seconds on each of these. Come on now, don't think about it. Who's the introvert? Michelle Obama, Steve Jobs? Oh, this is looking 50-50. Oh, okay, we're leaning heavily on Steve now. All right, so it's a relatively new quiz I put together, and no one has got all 5 correct. Right, here we go. Oh, Michelle. Michelle is the introvert. So a lot of you sliding towards Steve, though. Right, Muhammad Ali, Elton John. Which one is the introvert? Not the extrovert, who's the introvert? Yes, Chevelle, go. Yeah. Actually, it's Elton, unless you believe Elton is the GOAT. But yeah, Elton John, the recent film, actually, the biopic, mentioned that as well. So Meryl Streep, Maggie Thatcher. So Meryl Streep actually played Margaret Thatcher in a film. I love Meryl Streep. She was in Devil Wears Prada, one of my favorite films, man. Okay. Meryl. Lots of Meryl. All right, here we go. Hold on, we're going over towards Thatcher. It's actually Meryl Streep. You'll find a lot of actors claim to be introvert. Kendrick Lamar or Joe Wicks? Mr. Lockdown Fitness Dudes or Mr. We Gonna Be All Right? Okay, well, I think this one's a bit easier. Yeah. All right. All right, Kendrick, you got that one. And finally, Insecure or Sasha Fierce. And maybe this one's a bit easy as well. Yeah. All right, Tiana. Yeah. She got me on that defo. All right. Yeah. I think that one was an easy one as well. So there's your introverts. And here are your extroverts. And why is any of this relevant? Well, first of all, as I said earlier, nobody looks like an introvert, right? So it's a personality trait that we all possess and all kind of have to draw upon in order to just operate on a day-to-day basis. It's how one gains or drains energy. Secondly, personal branding. Not really a fan of putting themselves out there. However, those individuals had no choice because of their skills, their talent, their choice of work. They've been thrust out there in order to shine, and their personal brand needs to shine. And also, they don't usually like being the center of attention, introverts. However, this is something we need to unlearn if we are to progress throughout our career. And just a real quick word on personal branding. Now, I always say that your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. What people say about you when you're not in the room. Could your parents tell you what you do for a living succinctly? If they can't, then maybe most of the world can't either. You know, check your LinkedIn, check your profiles. Are you clearly saying what you do? Not what your job title is. You'll notice I never talk about my job title, but what do I do? Because at work, essentially, I'm a storyteller, but my job title is Internal Communications Director. What does that even mean? So it's really important to ensure that your brand is clearly communicated, and we'll go through how to do that in this session. Just want to say a piece on unlearning. So Alvin Toffler, this philosopher, once said that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So learn, unlearn, relearn. Why is that even important? Well, if you think about it, right? Well, God, when I was born, or let's not go that far back, but when I entered the workforce, you know, the communication was very different. There wasn't any instant messaging. Social media wasn't really, it wasn't a thing at all, actually. Twitter, 2009, yeah. So I had to unlearn what I realized was the staple thing about communication in the workplace and relearn. Because if I didn't relearn, I would have just slipped off the map and been discarded because I was no longer valuable in the workplace. have a think about jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago, which is commonplace now, right? Like social media managers, just to stay on that point, Pilates instructors, cryptocurrency, fund managers, etc. But there are no no graduates from these type of courses or industries back in the day because they didn't exist. So we've had to relearn. We have to unlearn what we knew to be true and relearn. So just think about what will happen, the change of pace in the workplace, and what you need to do in order to stay relevant so that your personal brand is always clean. Yeah, it's like your shop window. People dress that shop window so that they attract the custom into your store, so to speak. Thanks, Brandon, for that point. Appreciate it. So that was Act 1. It was just a nice foundational piece, just so we can understand the difference between introversion and extroversion in a professional world. Being an introvert isn't the same as being shy. Shyness has to do with self-esteem. No, it's about introversion and extroversion is about how one gains or drains energy. Gains or drains energy. Okay? Introvert wakes up, 5 gold coins of energy. Every social interaction, they pay the coin. So by the end of the day, they're spent. But an extrovert wakes up, no coins. And every gold coin, every interaction they make, they receive a gold coin, and they're rich in energy by the end of the day. Just kind of get that visual into your mind. So now we're going into the meat, the tools to help you to succeed. How can you get yourself off mute? How can you be heard as an introvert? So the first thing is how to get what you want. Now, I've observed a lot of extroverts. I have an extrovert mentor, and I've observed a lot of confident or senior management level introverts, and they're very good at this. And so I've taken a note of some of the key things that I've learned from them, and I'd like to share them with you. So can you pop in the chat, actually, some of the things that you struggle to ask for, or things you would like to ask for, have the confidence to ask for in your everyday life, whether it is your place of work, your personal life, study, wherever you are. Help. Yeah, that's a very common one. Raise, promotion. Personal space. Do you know what? That's the first time I've heard that. I totally relate. Difficult conversations. Yeah. Anything financial. All right. Okay. Thank you for sharing these. Not saying yes to everything. Oh, Nicola, you're amiable, one of those good people pleasers, but obviously it takes its toll on possibly on your well-being. So no, thank you for sharing that. So what I would suggest, first of all, frame your suggestion to match their goals. So Julia, you just said time off for personal reasons. Now, if perhaps you may work for an organization that isn't very open when it comes to flexible working. And so you may find it difficult. Not you personally, but just say one finds it difficult to ask for time off for personal reasons. Now, I remember this as being an example for me. And instead of saying that I needed to start later or having a day off in order to do personal things, I framed it as, if I could start earlier, I could actually, we could switch on our help desk before our competitors. So now there's this extra edge we have over our competitors. Or it could be, by changing my hours, I can then interact with our colleagues in a different time zone. So, they're not always having to wait the following day for one of our responses, because I've always worked for an international organization. So it's just thinking about what the goal of the organization is and how can you frame your suggestion, your ask, to match their goals. Even if it is pay, and I'll get to that. I think number 3 is a good one for pay. But even if it is pay, you could talk about where your salary currently sits in terms of market. You know, does it sit with the market value, the actual market level? If you want to be seen as an organization that truly values your talent, especially your Black talent, you got to put me on market level. Number two, pay extra attention to their problems. So the job advert that you saw and you applied for and you got your role, that was like their plea for help. It was like a wanted poster, but like the good version. And you came to the rescue. So just remember that, you know, if there are ways that, again, you can frame your ask to hit one of those points on your job description, that plea for help. If you can prove that your suggestion helps to further your acquiring of your, you know, your goals, your objectives, they're more likely to say yes. And with this third one, I love this one because that follows the principle, give before you take. So what I mean here is match the size of your ask to the size of your reputation or something that you've just delivered. So when I used to be in the government, I used to run these leadership conferences. They were two-day conferences. You know, you get the top brass of the senior civil service together, usually in a room, about 150 people, catering, you know, events, the whole lot. Go get speakers in. It's a massive task and will take about 4 months to plan. Now, if I wanted something really big, now I've been in civil service, not really a pay rise, but possibly a promotion, I would wait. I would wait until I've delivered that massive thing, had all the emails from all the most senior people saying, Richard, well done, that was a great event, da, 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 da. Boom, then I ask for this big thing. They are more likely to say yes because you have delivered. You've delivered something monumental, seismic, and you've matched your ask to that delivery. Don't do it the other way around. Don't ask for something big and you haven't really delivered much of late. But if you find that you don't have that big event, keep a folder or a document, something that you can update on a regular basis that has all of your wins. Because all of those small wins, once accumulated, turn into that massive piece of work, achievement that you can then take forward and request your ask, make your ask. And then the FOMO piece, you know, if someone else is doing the thing that you want, just say, and they're making it work, show them, be like, X has done it, look how great their numbers are, let me do it too. And then finally, minimize the risk factor, because all leaders think about risk. And if you can show that you have considered all of the possible risks, you are more likely to get what you want. If you have any questions or comments, please pop them in the chat. But that was how to ask for what you want. Meetings. Who enjoys meetings? Like actually enjoys them? Because I don't know if I've met anyone who can actually say they love meetings. Yeah, thanks, Talia. So yeah, I don't really like meetings. And I don't know about you, but ever since we've moved to this hybrid online vibe, I feel like we attend more meetings. Like I feel like people just shoehorn meetings into your calendar. Like, oh, space, bang. And then they put it for like an hour. Why you want to talk to me for an hour about something? Like I don't even talk to my parents about anything for an hour. Anyway, so, but the thing is though, meetings are a great opportunity to showcase your personal brand. And so while they are a bit, I think it's important that we make the most of them, especially when you're meeting people for the first time. However, how can we be heard in these meetings as an introvert? Because it's very, very tough. And I think I have the secret sauce. Number one, this is on you. Okay, this is more on you. Do not underestimate the value of your ideas. You have to remember that you have a reason to be there just like everyone else. If your talent, what you possessed, was not valuable, you would not have been invited. Remember that. You have a right to be there just like everyone else. Never underestimate your values, the value of your ideas. I enjoy this one. Be among the first to speak, even if it's just to say good morning, especially online. Just do the good mornings. Get all of that out. You know, what was the highlight of your weekend? All that kind of stuff. Do all of that, because that, if you find speaking up a bit nerving, then unnerving, speak up. Say little things. You know, English people talk about the weather. It's just something to just kill the nerves, and it will make it easier for you to speak. And then if you don't get the opportunity to do that, and one thing I do, if someone, you know, that classic one, right? Who wants to go first? Everyone says that, right? Do it. Just don't think about it. Just do it. Just do it. And number 3 is really helpful, because if you can look at the agenda ahead of time and pick something that you really want to speak about, it makes number 2 so much easier. And for those of you who actually run meetings, I would definitely ask that you send the agenda, you know, way ahead of time. When as soon as it's ready, please share it. And it's so important. And yeah, Manwa, to that point, including introverts in meetings, definitely invite quieter people to contribute, but don't silent shame them. You know, don't make them say anything. Don't do that whole thing like, oh, Barbara, you've been quiet. What do you think of this thing? Like, don't do that. It's more of a thing of, Barbara, I've really noticed, you know, the great work you've done on, you know, whatever it was. Would you like to say a few words about that? She could say no. You just move it on. But you've been an ally. You've kind of seen them. You've seen them, right? You've actively seen the work they've done. You've promoted it in the team meeting, and you've given them an opportunity to expand. But they don't have to. Non-obligation. But yes, always choose your topic ahead of time. Ask probing questions. So this is great when you don't really have anything to say. You know, you kind of sat there and people are talking. And I use the same process on social media, especially LinkedIn, because LinkedIn seems to be a place where there's lots of thought leadership and people sharing really big ideas. And if I don't have a big idea, what I tend to do is just tag along on someone else's big idea and then, you know, leave a really thought-provoking comment on it. So in the same vein, someone makes a really good point or suggestive point, provocative point, ask a probing question, especially if you don't quite understand what's going on, because the likelihood is everyone else doesn't understand, but they're too embarrassed to ask. And it also shows you're an active participant. You're engaged. You're actually listening to that individual, and they will appreciate you for it. And here's the thing. Recognize that disagreements are inevitable, but they're useful, because the purpose of a meeting is to come to a common win, common purpose, right? Common goal, a common solution to a problem that you all collectively face. And in order to do that, you need to see all sides of the coin, not just the front and back, but also the rim, all sides. And so there will be disagreements, but see it as a debate. You know, it's all part of the ebb and flow and the frisson of conversation that you all have as talented individuals. Power words, loving that memoir, and positive body language, even online. You know, even online. Try not to, you know, hide your face when you're talking and covering your mouth, and, you know, like really, you know, sit up, be attentive, and follow through with your points with a reason. I think this because don't give your power away. This one's really important. Do not defer to those who are the most senior in the room, because number 1, all right, you have a right to be there just like everyone else. So, you know, I've been in brainstorming sessions where everything's flowing. People are just going for it. post-it notes, either online or on the wall or whatnot, and everyone's giving it 100%. And then, the CFO slips in. And, she sits and she listens. And then she'll ask someone, carry on. What do you think? What's going on? And everyone goes really quiet. Like, what's with that? Never underestimate the value of your ideas. It can be very easy to give your power away and defer to those in authority, but they were where you were right now at one point. So, especially if you have an empathetic leader, it shouldn't be an issue to speak, because that's why you're there. So please do not give your power away. And just a little word on virtual meetings. So I also write for the Guardian newspaper, and I did a blog. I wrote a blog at the end of 2020, those, was it lockdowns, season 1 and 2. And I shared 5 tips on the things I learned as an introvert during lockdown. And one of those things in virtual meetings was to practice name calling. Now, practice name calling. Now, I don't mean, calling people nasty things, but what I mean is online. One thing I noticed is that some people talk, and they don't give people an opportunity to give an opinion or kind of, cut in. And as introverts, it's very tempting to do that, a really apologetic one. And you've all heard it. You've probably done it yourself, right? Here we go. Sorry. Nah, that's not confident. That's not powerful. That's not effective. And in fact, it's a bit demoralizing, right? Why would you want to continue like that? So what I tend to do is just call the person's name. So I'd say, yeah, thank you, Karen, for that point. Oh, now Karen stopped. I don't know why, but Dale Carnegie, he's an author, philanthropist. He wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he was quoted saying that there is no sweeter sound to a person than the sound of their name. And I don't know whether it goes back to childhood or some sort of Freudian thing, but it's so true. If Lynn was to just say, Richard, can I stop you for a second? I will stop. I don't know. I've heard my name. It's a great way to stop people. Try it for a week. If you have one of those individuals who just keep going on, use their name. But also thank them, Thank you, Karen, for that point. I just want to quickly add, don't apologize. All right, that was meetings. Any questions or comments in the chat, please bring them in. I'll do my best to answer and get back to them. I think this is my favorite one. Being heard as an introvert, 7 words or phrases to remove from your professional vocabulary. So I would love to hear in the chat, what words would you like to stop saying? Whether on email, in person, it might not even be words, right? It might be those ums and ahs and I don't know, or I don't know, that one. Are there any words or phrases that you would like to stop saying? Because I have 7. Apparently. Sorry, I think, does that make sense? Basically, yeah, I don't know. Reduce my use of please. Oh, Sylvia, that's all. You can just say please. But I was wondering, okay, these are great. Keep them coming in. Quite a few apologetic ones here. Sense of theme. Okay. Haha, Len, well done. So, just. Now, this is more on email, because verbally, I won't tell you to stop saying it. However, just. How many of us do that on emails, right? Just checking in to see if you have that thing for me. I just wanted to know if it was okay to blah, blah, blah. Remove the word, remove it. Remove just. Reread that sentence and you'll notice not much has changed. And I understand why we do it. It's to come across, polite, a bit soft around the edges. However, it's just not an effective word. Love in the chat, keep it going. I'm no expert, but a bit like Chevelle's, I might be wrong, but. And the problem with saying that term is it negates credibility. So I'll give you two things here. You could alternatives. One is a simple one. If you do know the expert in said field or question, refer them there, because that still makes you useful. You are now the connector of experts. The second thing is to bring it back to what you are an expert in. And I say this for a meeting setting. So in government, I was always around policy people, and I sit in meetings and I discuss policy. I'm not a policy person. I'm a comms person. I'm a communications marketing. That's my thing. So if somebody asks me a question, I would say, well, look, within the field of communications, there are three key principles here at play. What do we want people to think? What do we want them to feel? What do we want them to do? And I'm pretty sure with your policy, you would have a similar approach. So maybe consider, give them principle where you are an expert. Why? Because number one, remember number one on the other slide? I have a right to be there. My value was needed in that particular meeting. So always bring it back to what you are an expert in. And if you can't, defer. Can't. So Henry Ford, actually, the car maker from way back, said, if you think you can or you can't, you're right. And so what this word does, it actually is disempowering. So what I invite you to do is to bring the power back, right? So instead of saying I can't, say I choose not to. I won't. I prefer not to. Because you can do anything. You can travel to the moon, literally. You could do the qualifications, become an astronaut, and go and travel to the moon, whatever. You can, but you choose not to. You prefer not to. Honestly, a lot of people say that one. What's the line now? Well, to be honest with you, something like that. And I've heard that a lot in interviews when I sit on a panel, and I get that. Sometimes it comes from nerves and so forth. But then what? So everything you said before that wasn't true? Obviously not. So try to drop that, because again, it's negating credibility in your words. Words are powerful. We need to make sure we use them in the right way. What if we tried? Now in a group setting, when you're doing your little sessions, little brainstorms or whatever it is, it can be tempting to sound like the collaborative one. But like, what if we tried this thing? I would change it from a question into a statement. I think we should do option A because of reason X. What do you think about that? So you're still being collaborative. You're asking the question at the end, but you're starting with your stake in the ground. It's your point. Statement, not question. Thing, try not to use the word thing. It's a valueless word. And a great example of that is someone coming up to me and saying, oh, how are things going with that project? And I'm like, what? Okay, maybe they want to know what the budget's saying. So I go back and say, oh, we're on budget. No, I'm not talking about the budget. I'm talking about the timeline. Well, why didn't you tell me that in the first place? Reduce the back and forth, be specific. Am I making sense? Now, until you asked that, you were. And so I would instead invite someone to answer the question. I'd frame it differently. So I would say, does that answer your question? I think that's good. Also, am I making sense? Can sound a bit condescending, especially if you're talking about something that you deem too technical for your audience. You can come across as condescending. So just invite people, to answer whether you've answered their question, or, say, I welcome your feedback. So those are my 7. And those were the tools to help you to succeed. Now, we're almost at time. So what I would like to do, and as I said, the slides, I will definitely make them available to share, and this is being recorded, is I just want to very quickly talk about an event on Thursday, this Thursday, and it's the Black Introvert Week panel. Now, this is going to be a panel made up of some 5 of the most brilliant minds in this space in the UK and the US, and it's free. There are 500 tickets that went out, and there are only now 70 available. So please go on Eventbrite, search Black Introvert Week UK to get your ticket, and also visit Black Introvert Week on the website. You can just Google it. There's only one in the UK. And because there are free downloads where I talk, there are toolkits, downloads, resources that covers a lot of what I discussed today, but from a specific lens on race in particular. So yeah, would love to encourage you to get involved this week. And look, thank you for all of your comments and questions. And yeah, thank you very much.